All right, so today we're diving deep into Microsoft's Azure Information Protection. You know it also as AIP. We're breaking down their introductory webinar. We're going to make this like your crash course on how to safeguard your data. And I got to tell you, this goes way beyond your basic firewalls and antivirus.
Oh, absolutely. This is a whole different ball game now. Yeah, it used to be that our data was neatly tucked away in those secured servers,
Oh,
but not anymore. This webinar actually mentioned there are over 15,000 cloud apps out there now. It's like this explosion of information. And AIP is all about adapting to that new reality.
15,000. That's just mind-blowing. It's like herding cats, but the cats are your confidential files?
And they've got little rocket packs strapped to their backs, headed who knows where.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why AIP has this multi-layered approach. It's not just about locking things down. It's about weaving security into the DNA of the data itself. You know, it's like in those old spy movies. They're microfilm top secret information onto like an ordinary object.
Okay, so I'm imagining a grocery list that's actually a coded message.
Exactly. AIP is kind of like giving your data that same camouflage. On the surface, it looks like a regular file, but underneath, it's got this hidden layer of protection. And that protection dictates who can access the data and what they can do with it.
Now that is what I call sneaky. But sneaky in a good way. So less about fortresses and more about making the information itself smart.
Precisely. That's where labels come into play. But these aren't your grandma's sticky notes. These are like digital DNA embedded within the data. Let's say you've got a file that's confidential internal use only. You slap that label on it, and AIP makes sure those rules are followed no matter where that file ends up.
So even if that file accidentally gets emailed outside the company or someone loses a laptop with a file on it, the information is still protected.
You got it. And here's where it gets really interesting. The document actually calls these labels persistent. And by persistent, they mean these things stick with the data like glue. Copied, moved, even emailed to someone who shouldn't see it. Those labels are going along for the ride.
That is huge. No more sleepless nights worrying about copies ending up in the wrong hands. But let's be real for a second. Sometimes these security features can be a real pain to actually use. You know, they slow you down and disrupt your workflow. Is AIP like that?
That's the really cool part. They've gone and integrated it directly into the tools people are already using every day. I'm talking Microsoft Office,
Yeah.
Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you name it.
Yeah.
AIP is working behind the scenes right there in those apps.
Hold on. So you're saying I can apply these super secret labels while I'm working on a document in Word. I don't have to switch between different programs or anything?
Not at all.
Yeah.
And because it's baked right into Office, it just works seamlessly.
Yeah.
On a Mac mobile device, it doesn't matter. No clunky add-ons, no compatibility issues. It just works. And get this, it gets even better.
Okay, you've got my attention. What other tricks does this AIP magic have up its sleeve?
Well, this document mentioned something that really caught my eye. They talked about integration with Adobe Acrobat Reader, meaning even your PDFs can get the AIP treatment.
No, wait a minute. PDFs. Everyone knows those things are notoriously difficult to secure. You're telling me I can lock down a PDF with the same level of control as a Word doc?
That's right. And it's not just about locking them down either. We're talking controlling who can view them, who can edit them, even who's allowed to print them.
Okay, now that is impressive. I'm starting to see why this AIP thing is such a big deal. But I gotta admit, all this talk of labels and encryption, it's still a bit abstract for me. Can you give me like a real-world example of how someone might actually use this?
Absolutely. Let's say you're a financial advisor and you're working on a client's portfolio. Really sensitive information, right? With AIP, you can label that file as client confidential, and then only authorized people within your firm can access it.
So even if that file was accidentally emailed outside the company or ended up on a lost laptop, the data would still be protected.
Exactly. Remember those Microsoft IT case studies mentioned in the webinar notes? They deal with some of the most complex data imaginable, and AIP gives them granular control over who can access what. If it's robust enough for them, it's a good sign for the rest of us.
That makes sense. Like seeing the pros use the same tools gives you that extra confidence, but they're Microsoft. I'm guessing they probably have a whole team of experts dedicated to this stuff. What about smaller businesses or even individuals? Is AIP really a realistic option for them?
You know, it's one of the things I found so encouraging about this document. They really emphasize that AIP is designed for everyone, not just tech giants. They've put a lot of effort into making it incredibly user-friendly.
So you're saying I don't need to be a coding whiz to wrap my head around this?
Not at all. They have tons of resources available, step-by-step guides, even those case studies we mentioned. They really lay out practical applications. Honestly, they've gone the extra mile to make this accessible to everyone.
Okay, that's reassuring to hear. It's like they understand people need this level of security, but they don't want to make it overly complicated to actually use. So let me get this straight. We've got this powerful tool that's integrated into everyday software. It's user-friendly, and it's built for everyone, not just the tech gurus.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. This document mentions a public preview that was way back in October 2018, with general availability following in January 2019.
Hold on a second. So this isn't some pie-in-the-sky future tech. This has been around for a while now.
It has. Which tells me this isn't just a fad. The shift towards information protection, towards making the data itself secure. This is the future of data security.
Wow, okay. This is definitely a lot to process. We've covered how AIP works, why it's important, but I think it's time to take a step back and look at the bigger picture here.
I agree. Let's shift gears from the what to the so what.
Exactly, because this isn't just about protecting files. This is about protecting something far more valuable, peace of mind. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll dive into the wider implications of this technology, and we'll explore what it means for the future of data security. And we're back, folks, diving even deeper into the world of Azure Information Protection.
That's right. It's not just about locking them down. You can control who can view those PDFs, who can make changes, who can even hit the print button.
Wow, okay, so this is way more sophisticated than just slapping a password on a file.
Light years ahead.
I'm starting to get why this AIP thing is causing such a stir. But I gotta admit, all this talk about labels and encryption, it's still a little fuzzy for me. Can you bring it down to earth a bit? Like, give me an example of how this would actually play out in real life.
Sure. Let's imagine you're a financial advisor working with a client's portfolio. Obviously super sensitive stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So with AIP, you can label that file as client confidential. And just like that, only authorized people within your firm can even open it.
So even if, let's say, that file was accidentally emailed outside the company or someone lost a laptop with that file on it, the data would still be safe.
Exactly. That's the point. And, it's funny, they mentioned some real-world examples in this document, case studies from Microsoft's own IT department.
Right, they talked about that.
And we're talking about a company that lives and breathes data, right? If AIP is robust enough to handle their complex needs, it's a pretty good sign it could handle ours too.
Well, that's reassuring. It's like, if they're using it and they're the experts, well, sign me up.
Exactly. And the best part is they go out of their way to emphasize that this isn't just for tech giants. AIP is designed with everyone in mind.
That's good to hear because, to be honest, when I hear things like Azure Information Protection, I immediately think, okay, that's got to be complicated.
I hear you, but they've made it surprisingly user-friendly. Lots of resources available, step-by-step guides. Even those case studies we talked about, they paint a very clear picture of how it works in practice.
So you're saying I don't need to be a coding wizard to wrap my head around this thing?
Not at all. They've really gone the extra mile to make it accessible to everyone.
Okay, phew, that's a relief. So instead of guarding the castle, we're giving each soldier the tools to defend themselves.
Precisely. And with AIP, those tools are the persistent, customizable labels we've been talking about. Imagine sensitive information traveling with its own rulebook. It knows who can access it, what they could do with it, no matter where it ends up.
Okay, now I'm really starting to see the bigger picture here. It's about moving from reaction to prevention. Instead of cleaning up a data breach after it happens, you're stopping it before it even starts. But what about the human element? People make mistakes, they click on phishing links, they leave their laptops at coffee shops.
And that's where AIP really proves its worth. Remember those Microsoft IT case studies? Even within a tech giant like Microsoft, they face those same human risks. How do they address it? By combining AIP with robust employee training and clear data governance policies.
So it's about having the right tools in place, but it's also about creating a culture of security. It's not just a technology solution, it's a mindset shift.
You said it, and that cultural shift is what makes this document so fascinating. It hints at a future where data security is everyone's responsibility, not just the IT department.
That's a powerful thought. It makes this whole conversation about AIP feel less like a tech deep dive and more like a glimpse into a new era of digital citizenship.
It's about empowering individuals and organizations to unlock the potential of data. But to do so securely and ethically, that's the true promise of information protection. And AIP is paving the way.
This has been an incredible journey, to say the least. We've gone from deciphering webinar notes to exploring the future of data security itself. It's clear that Azure Information Protection is more than just a tool, it's a catalyst for change.
And like any good deep dive, it leaves us with more questions to ponder. I'd encourage everyone listening to ask themselves in this rapidly changing digital landscape, what steps can you take to become a better steward of the information you hold?
That's a question worth considering for sure. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay secure.